been a few years since I last drove the Honda CR-V and a few things have changed. I've actually managed to lose a few kilos, but I've unfortunately also lost a little bit of hair. And Honda have given us a brand new model. Now the old CR-V had a bit of a magic trick where it managed to look small on the outside but huge inside. Does this new one do the same thing? Let's find out. I'm Alex Dalrymple. This is my channel, Four Wheels and a Seat, a channel for people who are maybe looking for a new car to buy but don't know which way to turn. Well, I can help you out with a jargon-free review. Don't forget to hit subscribe down below, the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video, I'd love a like. The 2024 CR-V is bigger than the previous model, not just by a little bit, it's a whole 7 centimeters longer, and it gets a longer wheelbase as well, which means rear seat passengers get a whole lot more room. Not that they were really short on room in the previous model. From a design point of view, the CR-V now follows Honda's design language that we've seen in the Civic and the HEV, and here it looks really, really good. I like this big aggressive grille that we get with a big Honda logo with a blue outline there, because this particular car is a top spec HEV with an RS body kit. That's a lot of letters, but the result is a really good looking, strong design. Coming around to the side here, we get 19-inch alloy wheels that are done in black. I think they look really, really good. We've got a panoramic sunroof up on top with roof rails. It rides up nice and high, so there's plenty of ground clearance if you decide to go off-road a little bit. You may have noticed this car is looking a little bit dirty. I think it went on a road trip before I picked it up. They didn't have time to wash it, unfortunately. But here at the back is one of my favorite design elements of this car, and it is the rear light clusters. They're L-shaped as they were in the previous model. They look a little bit Volvo-esque, but that's okay. It's not a bad thing. I like what they've done here, bringing the lights over here onto the tailgate, again carrying on that L-shaped design. It looks quite European. One thing I don't really quite like is what's going on with the exhausts, because over here on the right-hand side we've got a real functional exhaust, but look at this over here on the left, completely blanked off. I guess maybe in the regular petrol model that's functional, but not in this one. Under the powered tailgate sits a 581 litre storage space, which is just huge. You can expand that by a further 1,000 litres with the rear seats down. No spare tyre. We do get a tyre repair kit and a bit of additional storage there. So all up, yes, the CR-V does have a lot of interior room. Under the bonnet is one of the best hybrid powertrains you'll find anywhere. We've got a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder 2-litre VTEC petrol engine connected to an electric motor, and together they output 135 kilowatts of power and 335 newton meters of torque, which is pretty good. Fuel economy clocks in at 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres on a combined cycle. An all-new model means an all-new interior, and the CR-V's interior has been brought in line with Honda's latest design language also. So it does look very similar to the Civic, the ZR-V and the HRV. So we've got this mesh going across the middle here, hiding the air vents with little joystick controls, a nice mix of soft touch and some firmer plastics down below, but that's okay. It is a very nice contemporary feeling cabin. The center console screen is a little bit on the small side. It's still only 9 inches, but it does have Honda's latest software on it, and it has everything you need, really. Native navigation, digital radio, wireless Apple CarPlay, plus a whole stack of hybrid powertrain information. The sound system is by Bose, and it has 12 speakers. Sounds pretty good. Moving down the console here, we've got the climate controls, a couple of USBs, USB-A, USB-C, and a 12-volt outlet. Wireless phone charging here in the top spec hybrid model. The gear shifter, pretty traditional. It goes all the way down to B for maximum battery regeneration mode. Drive mode selector here, brake hold, a couple of cup holders. Big center console bin with a little removable tray. No head-up display in this car. That's maybe one thing that's missing. The digital instrument cluster is 10 inches and also is pretty much the same as the Civic and the other SUVs. It's really good, has a couple of different display modes and a nice sharp display. This steering wheel is really good. It's a lot simpler than the Subaru one we looked at last week, so there's far fewer controls and they are easier to use. A couple of paddle shifters on the back that are for the battery regeneration mode. The seats seats are leather, they're very comfortable. There is full electric adjustment for the driver and front passenger, plus there's also lumbar support for the driver, and the seats are heated as well. But it's backseat passengers who benefit most from the slightly longer wheelbase in this car because there is so much room back here. I'm 190 centimeters tall behind my own seating position and so much room, nowhere near the seat in front of me. The seats here are very comfortable, nice leather bench. You could quite comfortably fit 3 kids back here on a longer trip. On a short trip, 3 adults might be a little bit of a squash, but it is really comfortable. 2 USB-C ports down there, plus air vents. The only problem really is a slight lack of headroom. Because this car has a panoramic sunroof, the roof retracts and winds up here in the roof, and there is a bit of a hump here, which my head is just sort of scraping. So that's not ideal, but on a short trip, it's just fine. So look, with the armrest and cup holders, it's a very comfortable place to be. There is a bit of a rattle in the back of this car, which I can't locate, but whenever we go over a speed hump or a pothole, it's just this rattle right behind my head, and I'm sure that it's just because something's loose. I don't think there's any build quality issues, but I just can't work out what it is. The CR-V is very quiet, and that's not just because it's a hybrid. It is so well insulated from the outside world that you really can't tell easily when you're in petrol mode or electric mode, because switching between the two is seamless and you just can't hear it. And with the electric and petrol motors working together, they produce really quite a bit of power. As we can see here going onto the freeway, putting my foot down, now we can hear the petrol engine, but that's not really overly obtrusive at all. And we got up to speed really, really quickly. Honda has always emphasized good driving dynamics in their cars, and the CR-V is no exception, because, I mean, this is the largest SUV that Honda make, and it still performs and handles much like a small car. It feels like a Civic that kind of just rides up a bit higher. All Honda CR-Vs come with the full suite of Honda sensing safety gear, but here in the top spec HEV RS, we get rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitors, and adaptive high beam. Being a Honda owner of several years, I might have a little bit of unintentional bias, but I do have to say this is one of the most pleasant SUVs to drive. It is just really nice. So the CR-V EHEV is a traditional hybrid. It's not a plug-in hybrid, and a friend asked me during the week, well, what's the difference? Well, a plug-in hybrid, obviously you have to plug in, and it has a much larger battery, so that allows you to have a fairly limited amount of electric only range, say about 50 kilometers or so, maybe what you would do in a day. So the idea being that you plug in at the end of the day, and if you're careful, you never need to engage the petrol motor and you save money on fuel. This car is a traditional hybrid, so you can't plug it in. The battery only gets charge from the engine and engine braking, and the battery is much smaller, so the electric motor only kicks in when you're traveling at really low speeds, or as we are now, cruising along the highway, and the petrol engine shuts off and the electric motor takes over while we're just sort of coasting along. And you can see a really clear visual representation here on the center console screen of exactly what's going on with the power system. So the most obvious benefit of a traditional hybrid setup is fantastic fuel economy. I put $20 worth of petrol in last night, and the range of the car has jumped by 200 kilometers on $20 worth of fuel. Now, the figure that the car quotes here on the dashboard isn't exactly accurate. 200 kilometers is probably a bit generous, but point being, it still uses very little fuel in comparison to a regular petrol car. The interior fit out of this car really is superior to a lot of other cars on the market, and it does go some way, I think, to Honda's slightly higher price point because everything just feels really high quality. We've got nice soft touch materials that still have a good amount of firmness and weight to them. Interior lighting features here and some really nice finishes. Everything just feels so solid and well put together. There are 3 drive modes: normal, eco and sport. They do pretty much what the label says. I like normal, it works best. Sport just seems to go through petrol a bit faster and make the engine rev a bit harder, and eco of course dulls everything down, but there really is a noticeable difference between the 3 modes and you don't always get that in a lot of cars. Just driving behind a Volvo XC40 and from behind there is a fair amount of similarity with the rear light cluster design and that L7 shape. It's a good look though. So it's driving along streets like this, sort of 20 kilometers per hour, where the car will be in full electric mode. And in a high pedestrian area like this, you really have to be a little bit careful because people will not hear you when you come up behind them. The CR-V eHEV might not be the cheapest compact SUV on the road, but it is one of the best with outstanding driving dynamics, build quality and fuel economy.